All right. Welcome back to the Men's Talk Show, episode 8, season 2. We have a very special guest with us today, Daryl Perry. He has a podcast and he talks about men's mental health. We are excited for him to join today. And the discussion that we're going to be talking about today is what is some good, healthy relationships that you want to attract in your life, whether you're a man or a woman. And then the coin side of that is basically how has intimacy changed as from a young boy to now as a man, now that we older and we have more experience. So Daryl, could you just kind of like tell our audience like who you about, what you do, and what is your goal over there on your podcast?
Sure. So in this area, for men's mental health, I just want to get the message out that it's okay for men to acknowledge, one, that they have emotions, and then two, and this is like a step-by-step thing where everybody's at a different place, be able to acknowledge, then feel, then figure out how to process and work through and let go and just deal with the emotions that they have. And I think that actually that's a starting point, which splinters off into a number of different areas. One of the massive ones, though, is all this stuff that we're talking about. It is relationships, it is intimacy. And, that's romantic relationships, but that's also friendships, professional relationships. This stuff trickles into so many different areas. So, but that's my thing. I just want men to be able to acknowledge they have emotions. It's different than what we were all kind of brought up to believe, I think, or most of us were brought up to believe. And there's so many good things like intimacy that comes after you get in touch with who you are and are able to express it.
Yeah, I definitely we appreciate you getting into this worker field. We need more men to talk about their mental health. It would definitely reduce the suicide rates in this world. But in my opinion, I think that to attract a good, healthy relationship, you, like I said, in my previous episode, you have to really do some soul searching. You have to really, you have to really know who you are before you get into a healthy relationship, because a lot of times people they come with a lot of baggage, and it's not to necessarily say that you can't bring baggage into the relationship in order to attract somebody in a good, healthy relationship, but it's you have to really work on yourself before you can attract somebody else that you want good in your life. Because if you have a lot of toxicity, if you filled with drama, and your life is chaotic, you're gonna bring that other person down with you. And I don't feel like you need to do that. I feel like if you need to get to therapy, go to therapy, because I have gone to therapy a lot of times in my life. I wasn't always perfect. I had to deal with a lot of toxic relationships and but I felt like she kind of played into it and I played into it, and we didn't really know each other that very well. So I felt like going to therapy really helped make the relationship better. But not everybody is going to like therapy, but I feel like that's just one option if you really want to work on yourself to attract somebody, a good, healthy relationship. What about you, Daryl? What do you?
So I think I think you're right. I think you have to be able to know who you are. You have to be able to know who you are, and you have to know what your values, what your goals, all this stuff that has to do with you, that has nothing to do with other people coming into your life. But the easiest thing to do is attribute a lot of the value in this stuff to the people that are coming in and out of your life. Now, I think it takes time and experience to learn who we are. I think it's an ongoing thing. And this is one thing, you start seeing stuff on social media, with video clips that are 15 to 60 seconds at a time. You can hit a topic at a super high level quickly, but you can't really get into the details of it. And I think a lot of times, because it's easy, like we want to categorize, this is what I know there's sections of the internet where it's like, this is what it means to be a man. This is what men do. This is what it means to be a woman. This is what women do. And in the relationship, it's like you're not you have to know that you're both coming in with your baggage or unsavory personality traits. And I like how you mentioned chaos, because here's the thing: you could be living in chaos in various stages of your life, and it seems normal to you. And then you get into a relationship with somebody else, and you're the wrecking ball that's like tearing down like but it's normal to you. And I think one of the biggest things is we have to figure out, again, who we are. But it's just it's something that's an ongoing thing. And I think you mentioned therapy. Therapy is something that can be very helpful, but it takes time when you're working with a therapist, because I worked with one for a couple of years. You have to be able to develop a trusting rapport and relationship. And then it's the stuff not only at therapy, but what are you doing outside of sessions and in between sessions? Because it's one thing to dig up the thoughts and the feelings. It's a whole nother thing to actually work through them and do something with them.
Well, yeah, you brought up a good point about, forming a trust with your therapist. So last season, we had our friend Chris on as well, and he talked about how he went through like 15 different therapists before he found the right one. I think 15 is quite extreme. Hopefully, most people don't get to that amount of therapists before they find the one who's great for them. But that just paints the picture that the first one may not be the person for you, and if it is, great. If it's not, feel free to try someone else. The first couple sessions is a learning curve, just like dating or when you get a new friend. Everything is like you're trying to get to know each other, and that's what it's about at first. And then after the first couple sessions is where you really get to the meat of the issues and where the things start going to be beneficial.
And I also think communication plays a role in it too, because, a lot of people are not honest with themselves when they get into what they want out of a relationship. Some people come into the relationship, they just want sex, or they just want, it's all about me and I'm not going to do anything for you. I've seen it all with countless of my guy friends. And, I even been in some, toxic relationships in the past. But I felt like in order to attract a real healthy relationship, you have to be honest and vulnerable, and you have to put yourself out there too, because you have to be very intentional about what you want. Because a lot of people say, I'm going to get whatever comes my way. Good luck with that, because you really are going to get whatever's going to come your way.
Well, that kind of goes into what Daryl was saying, is like, getting to know your emotions, and that's why we also do this as well, is to talk about mental health and those things like that. And when you grow up, and even, my wife does this sometimes when my son's crying, she's like, "Ben, the boys don't cry." And I'm like, nah, you can't tell them that, that's just, there's just certain aspects of life and certain situations where it's okay to cry, it's okay to have emotions. And so I try to tell him that now, as when he's 6, that process what he's feeling. As certain things happen and he'll be upset or sad or whatever, and I'll ask him, how's he feeling? What made you feel like that? Just so he can understand what's going on. And that starts now. And that'll help him when he's an adult trying to get into a relationship and it's not going well, because they're arguing about where you want to go for dinner. And they've been arguing about it because one person doesn't pick the other person to pick. And he'll understand why he feels that way and how can he get around that situation, instead of just being mad and just seeing red and just going 100 and then saying something that he would ultimately regret.
Yeah, I think what you said is correct, Wayne, which is like you have to start working on it now, because a lot of the men that I've interviewed on my podcast for mental health, the reason they're looking at this now is they're in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, and all of this stuff, the boys don't cry, men don't have emotions, that they heard throughout their life. Well, they now they've got their own personal experience, their own ups and downs with relationships, and they have children, and in some cases grandchildren, where they're like, wait, I don't want the stuff that I was taught to be what's passed down and passed along. So I think a lot of times there's, it's excellent that you're working on that now, and you see it as, it's not like you just wake up one day and figure out, oh, I know who I am and I know how to express this. It is work over time, and it honestly, whether we think we have feelings or not, it's part into how we view ourselves as a person. So it's something that develops over time and takes a lot of time to work. Now, I was listening to the episode that you guys did on why intimacy fades in relationships, and we're kind of talking about this stuff a little bit here, where when a relationship starts, because you haven't really been through you haven't been through anything yet together, and two, everybody's on their best behavior, right? Like you haven't had a chance to upset each other yet. But then, like, what happens months and years into a relationship, you start to navigate things together. And I think one of the biggest things is it's so hard when you're arguing, especially if something that's said brings up or triggers a feeling from your past or how you've always dealt with something. Because when you've got two people trying to work through something, and both of you are upset because of how it makes you feel, you have to be able to take a step back and be like, wait a minute, are we on, like, are we trying to work through this? Are we on the same team? And I mean, you guys probably, you'll go hours, maybe even days, having fights over some of the smallest stuff that you look back at it and you're like, okay, we might be able to navigate that differently last time or next time. I learned a lot from the interaction, but it's trial and error. And I think the biggest thing with relationships is, are you committed to keeping that person in your life? If it's somebody that's worth it to you, whether it's again, romantic relationship, friendship, business partner, coworkers, whatever, like, you look at that with the goal in mind. And I think one of the things that comes out, because there's so many cliche things about relationships, all relationships, but especially romantic relationships now, like, everybody's distracted. Everybody's got all these options and stuff. And it's actually counter to what I think actual relationships are, which is you're committed to staying with that person and navigating things. And it's not about I'm right or you're right or I'm wrong and you're wrong. It's how is it that we can navigate this together? I think that's the foundation of everything.
Yeah, and do you
Yeah.
have I mean, that's great, grass isn't always greener, you know. You especially when you're in your 20s, right? And you may think like, well, I got this one girl and she's great, but this one, she fits the mold perfect. But then when you meet her on the inside, she's just not there. And you think you can look past it. But that's why you keep having all the arguments, because in your mind, the girl that you have now is not as good as the one who was before, but she may look slight little bit better, maybe one feature or two features that you like more, but this person you connected on a more deeper level with, and now things are just aren't good. So, when you find someone who's great, like you said, staying committed and realizing that you want to keep that person in your life. It's some work. It absolutely is.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with you guys. You know, it all starts back with your values in life and what you want out of a healthy relationship. If you want somebody, that's God fearing, if you want somebody that will help, lift you up out of your, darkness, that's those two type of conversations that, really should be had, third or fourth dates. I feel like a lot of times people go really fast and, to try to find that partner. But sometimes you have to just learn to take it slow in life. Because a lot of men, like, some of my guy friends, they just go out for the sex. They don't care about, how much he makes and stuff like that. But I said, no, you have to look a little bit, beauty is skin deep. Like, you have to look a little bit deeper than just the physical attractionness of, of the woman or the man.
I mean, you got to think about it too. There's different phases in life. So I mean, like when you're, again, like we said, go back to when you're in your early 20s. You're out the house. Maybe you got a little bit of money. Like you're trying to have fun and experience things, and that's all good. And that's not every single guy. I mean, that's probably not even 50% of guys out there who are looking for that. Some guys, I actually know like 3 or 4 people who married their high school sweetheart. It's like so those things happen as well. But just knowing like when you do want to get in that serious relationship and being able to open up and have proper communication is key.
I think you mentioned when you're mentioning the person on the inside. I think as you get older, or you get more mature. Let's talk about it that way. It's maturity, because we know people in their 20s that are really mature. We know people in their 20s that aren't. I'm 42 years old. I know people that in their 40s, I'm like, you're acting like a teenager. Um, you know, when you mature, you realize that in a relationship, it is about like, it's about who the person is on the inside and how much, again, like how much work you're willing to do together, because there's the whole thing of actually, having the relationship, but then also running a household and running a life. And these are two things that are separate skill sets. You hope that you can find that in one person and that you guys complement each other. It's not always the case, but I think it's more about, you mentioned the grass isn't always greener. It's about looking at the yard you're in and and taking care of it as best you can. Because the thing is, when you talk about your child being 6, well, I'm sure it feels like yesterday he was just being born, right? Like time goes by super fast, and being present is super hard.
So switching it to different gears, how has intimacy changed from being a guy, from being like a young boy, like 13, 14, or even younger than that, to now as a guy? Like, how would you say intimacy, how does your view of intimacy change also?
Sure. I think if we're going back to like when I was teenager before, um, it was all about attractiveness at various stages and what that means. For me, going way back, I can remember when I was like 4 or 5 years old, I would have I would have dreams that I was watching TV with Madonna. This is all this was, but at 4 or 5 years old, thought she was pretty. I was having dreams about her. Then you get into like your teenage years, and then it becomes more about physical attractiveness. And it's like the idea of what an attractive woman is like ties into also what do I think I need to look like to attract those types of women into my life, to the whole thing with marriage. And I mean, that's the thing with me, is I was married for almost 13 years, and figured out that the person that I was with, we were going in two different directions. And it gets into that whole thing of, you literally only have one life to live. And then taking all of that experience, and then, as I mentioned, working through therapy, working on myself, which is a continual thing. I'm in a relationship with someone now where intimacy is something that we make a commitment to. And intimacy is not just sex, although it plays into sex, and I think it enhances sex. But it's about trust, and it's about safety, and it's about feeling the calmness between you and that person, and being comfortable with that person. So that's what intimacy is to me now. It's safety.
Yeah, when I was 13 and 14, I was just going after, the sex, to be honest, and I think most of us, do that. We look at the physical appearance and say, ooh, she's pretty and she's got nice titties and stuff like that. And it's just like, you look at it on a superficial level. But then as you get older, well, hopefully as you get older, but there's a lot of men that still haven't grown up. And when we talk about immature people, immature men, that's, some of those categories of them. They're still chasing young thoughts and stuff like that. And, they really haven't grown up in life. But I feel like as I gotten older, I feel like I'm setting the bar high for myself too. We always talk about women setting the bar high for themselves. But I feel like I set, me as a man, I set the bar high for myself. I want somebody that, believes in God. I want somebody that, doesn't, go out late at night and I'm wondering where you at, like, where you been at? Like, we got a life now. We can't be doing what you used to do and stuff like that. And I want somebody that is just gonna love me for me, even with my imperfections, because we all have insecurities. And
Right.
I feel like, if when you have to set the foundation and for yourself, then hopefully you can attract that, person. But it takes work and time, and I'm even still going through a lot of things that I don't really like about myself, but I'm learning to just try to accept it, even though that it's there and it's prevalent, but not make it not make it, where the woman saying, "Oh, you that insecure,"
So
So it's just, yeah.
Yeah, so how does that affect like obviously looks is a part of everything, right? Like not to say not to what we're saying is discounting looks, but looks are only get you to a certain extent when it comes to intimacy and relationship. Um Even me as like 38, I know guys, as you get older, like your friends are all different ages. So but I got guys that are older than me and they still talk about like hooking up with like 20-year-olds. And I'm like not 20-ish, but like 20. I'm like, I can't see that, Like for me, I got a teenage daughter and like there's something about a young face that you can just tell like they're young. And so when I see like girls are like 19, 20, I'm like, they just look like young kids. Like they don't like maybe their bodies are developed, but their face and of course their maturity. Like you can't spend for me anyway, like I can't spend more than like a few hours around somebody that age. And I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. I just can't do that no more. But let's talk about how this affects your mental health when you're in a healthy relationship. How does that affect your mental health there?
I think it gives you a level of self-assuredness and confidence that is genuine. I think that if you are in a relationship that is based on or grounded in intimacy, you start to crave different things. You start to really want that emotional connection. You feel, you feel comfortable enough to share what your hopes and your ambitions were. And I will tell you, there's a direct the timeline between when Heather and I got into more of a serious relationship and my creative output, launching different podcasts, doing different initiatives, changing, being laid off from one company, taking on a job with another, and then when that wasn't necessarily what it was presented to me as, having the courage to say, well, you know what, I've been on my own before, I'm gonna do it again, and having that support system. So you actually, if you're somebody that feels like I have to do this all on my own, if you felt, or if you felt that way throughout life, and you have somebody that genuinely believes in you and genuinely supports you and has your back, it just gives you a peace of mind and a level of self-assuredness that you probably haven't had before.
I can definitely second that. Having been married 8 years now, it's I mean, not to say any marriage is perfect, any relationship is perfect. We've had our ups and downs and things like that, but my growth since we've become partners has gone exponential. And it's not that she knew everything about what it is about being successful in life, but no, it's just like we motivate each other. Like I see her succeeding in her career and pushing boundaries and things like that, and then like in turn, I want to do the same thing. There's a healthy competitiveness in this house here, where it's like who's going to make the most money, who's going to succeed the most, and then but then at the same time, it came to the point where I had to dial back. Uh, and do more for the house and take care of the kids so she can go pursue her education to better her career. So we're still partners in that. And it was watching her struggle mentally with all of that, like school and still working full time. It was tough on me as well because like I want to do more and more mentally. I want to be more physically there in the house. But then I can't. And so that took a toll on me mentally as well. It was like I was feeling like emotional because I can only do so much.
Yeah, I understand that. It's it's not easy living this life. It's, we go through a lot of challenges and ups and downs, but what advice would you, to kind of wrap this up, guys, what advice would you give to somebody that's, still immature, or that's, still trying to figure out life, and they don't know what a healthy relationship would look like for them? What advice would you give them?
I would say, I'm a big fan of journaling, but I'm a big fan of just basically starting out with brain dumping all of your thoughts just so you can get them out of your head and get to know yourself. I feel like if you're, and again, everybody does things for slightly different reasons. But Wayne, when you're talking about because I know guys like this too, they're like, they're pursuing girls, we're going to say girls that are young enough to be their children. There's something there where they've been afraid and insecure about aging up or having a mature connection, or maybe it's something as simple as you get somebody that's, if they're that young, they're impressionable, so maybe you have an insecurity complex where you want to come off as the smartest guy in the room. Well, it's a heck of a lot easier to convince a 20-something-year-old person. You're laughing because you know these people, but like then to talk to people, then to talk to people in your own in a I guess in a more advanced age group. It's but I think self-awareness is one of the biggest keys in the world we live in today, because all we got to do is pick up our phone and we can have all kinds of messages telling us what we need to be and what we should do to make ourselves happy. But truthfully, I think it all starts with how well connected we are to ourselves. So I mean, I think if you're not journaling, try doing that. And it doesn't have to be anything formal. You're just getting your thoughts out, but I think it's a huge help.
Yeah, I heard you talk about that on your couple shows that I did watch. You're very big into journaling, and you said like you don't do it. I mean, you try to do it every day, but you can't. Even though you've been doing it for years, it happens. So for people who hear that and think, "Well, I'll start journaling," and they do it for 2 days and they stop, it's okay. Get back to it again when you get back to it, or set it. Set a reminder on your phone, or everything. When you start something new, it's fun, and then you have to stay consistent for it to become a habit. And that's where it becomes like, it's not even routine anymore. It's like you find time in your day, like, oh, I'm going to the bathroom for 10 minutes. Okay, let me journal in here. Oh, I'm waiting on my food to be delivered. Let me journal real quick right now. So one thing for me that helped when I was, when my wife was going through school and she was going through her struggles, and I was also struggling mentally because I couldn't do it, like physically do her work for her. It's just talk to a counselor. That's what I did. My job offered counseling for free, and I went for a while, and that really helped. Just to get, same with journaling, just to get things out and talk about it. And sometimes we wouldn't even talk about the issues that I had. Like the counselor would go off in a whole nother way, and we're just having a genuine conversation. And I'm just like, I walk out feeling so energetic, and it's all about like the energy that you feel, and it's put off, and people in your room can sense it. People who are in tune to themselves and those around them, they can feel that difference in energy that you put off. And so if you're not taking care of your mental health and you think that no one's noticing, there are people who can play it off pretty well, but sometimes like people notice like there's something off about you. And with the way things are with men and mental health, they are afraid to speak about that. So again, if you're in that situation where you're struggling mentally, say something. And if those people don't support you, then they're not your real friends. All right. Message us, the Men's Talk Show. Reach out to Daryl. Like, there's plenty of people who are here to help you and listen to you.
Yeah, I would definitely say definitely reach out. Make sure that it's a 988 number that you can call if you are struggling, if you have any questions. Don't feel like you're alone in the world. There is a lot of options for people other than suicide. um Talk to friends and family. We are here, and I'm always messaging people, so like I try to respond to everybody's questions or comments. Sometimes it gets kind of hectic, but we're gonna keep doing our best to respond. And we even have a Discord men's talk show group where all the men that come in and they talk about all of their feelings and their frustrations. They give each other life advice. We set that up like as soon as like early as last year when we first started. So they can feel free to talk. You can even message me privately if you don't want to talk in front of the other brothers in the group. There's so many avenues. But to wrap this up, I think that if you are unsure about what to attract as a healthy relationship, I think it starts with you. Like, if you are working on soul searching and you're going to therapy and you have a lot of things that you like, if you get someone that likes to travel, you could be travel buddies. Get someone, if they like to journal, find someone that likes to do that. Like asking these questions up front and being very transparent about who you're getting with. It's better than trying to figure each other out, down the line when everything is messy and toxic already and it's, beyond repair. Figuring each other out. It's okay to ask questions on a date. You don't have to interrogate people, but just ask them, kind of get to know them, go slow. I think our culture just really is going fast. The dating pool is shit now. It really is. From the man and
one thing I just want to say real quick, how you're looking for someone who's God fearing, right? And or doing things that you like, figure out who you are. When you do something you like, you will form a new tribe, a new circle around you, and you'll start to meet people within that tribe. And maybe that's where you'll find your person, right? So if you're thinking like doing the normal things, like if you're just playing video games inside the house, isolation, then you're probably not going to meet anybody there or just scrolling on your phone. But like going outside in the world, it's okay, right? The COVID's gone away. All right. Yes, the internet dating is there, but you can still meet people out there. Just go out and find something that you like, and you will meet somebody, even if it's playing a bowling league, right? Maybe all your people in your bowling league are guys, but maybe through them you'll meet someone else. Like, or you'll, hey, you ever want to just try this, and then y'all go somewhere else, and you meet people there.
Yeah, it's all about forming connections, and you never know who knows what. And sometimes your best friends might be able to say, I think you might be a good person for this woman. They might be able to refer you, like hook you up that way. So it's more, it don't feel like you're alone if you're single or, nobody wants me. And, you have to really get out there and search. And that applies to women too, not just men. Anybody that's looking for somebody, really know yourself and what you want, and that way you can find somebody to attract in your life.
Because like Daryl said, I'm sorry, but like Daryl said earlier, having a strong, healthy, committed relationship, it's really empowering and it really helps your mental health. But if you don't have a relationship, you can still be very strong mentally. But if you're looking for that, that's what we're saying. It's out there, and finding the right one, not just one with anybody, but finding the right one is so beneficial.
All right, that's all the time we have today, guys. I want to thank Daryl for coming on the show. You're more than welcome to come back on the show anytime. And like I said in the beginning, I can come on your show. Wayne can come on it. It's up to him if he wants to do that or not. But we try to help support each other out since we're both small content creators. I know the struggle is real sometimes with the views, but we're putting out something positive into the world, and whether it gets pushed in the algorithm doesn't really matter. It's going to eventually find the right people, and they're going to want to come on and they're going to want to collaborate with us. But we really do appreciate your time, and I know it's still pretty early, so but thank you though once again, Daryl. Do you have any final words or anything you want to?
Where can we find you at? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so the best place to find me for all this stuff, I'd start with my site. I'd go to darylperry.com. So DARYLPERRY.com. That's going to have all my social, my email. That's the best way to reach out with me. And definitely, I mean, I look at this. This is an ongoing collaborative effort. So many conversations, many podcast episodes, live streams, all that stuff. I'm open to all of it, but no, you guys are doing some great things here. I'm glad to be a part of it, and first of many projects, I think. So, thanks for having me on.
Likewise.
All right, cool.